cold bear report, and it was challenging, but it gave me the opportunity to come and speak to you, and that's the good part about this, is that after all the BS, we get to talk about science. Now, the kind of science I'm going to talk to you about is not extremely complex. It's the kind of science citizens can do, but it's also the kind of science that's needed, because it's letting us know what's happening. It's letting us know what's happening in our world as citizens of the planet. And the vessel that I use to do this research is one that I constructed in Hobart, Tasmania in 1995 out of aluminium, as they say in Australia. And it's a 50-foot by 25-foot beam, about 25-foot ton catamaran. It's got sails so that we can access these remote areas of the ocean. You can't carry enough fuel to really study the deep, remote Pacific Ocean. You really have to be able to sail on a small boat. And besides, the expense is very great if you're going to push your boat along with diesel fuel. You really need to be able to sail to do this kind of research that's not going to result in any great profit or any great discovery for resource management. This boat has to go under this 12-foot bridge, so the mast has to come down. Comes down, it's like we're Don Quixote tilting at windmills that sticks 40 feet out in front of the bow, so we have to be very careful as we navigate underneath these bridges to get to our dock. Now, I want to be very clear what we do. It's very simple, in a way. It's simply to sample the surface of the ocean. And we do it with a device called a manta trawl. And I'm sure you know what a manta ray is. It's a ray with wide arms, wide fins, and a very wide mouth. And it's a ray that lives by sampling plankton, you might say. It extracts its food by filtering it out of the ocean, planktonic organisms. Where our filter is this net you see streaming out of the back of this device. It's 1/3 of a millimeter mesh. And it's very effective at sampling the surface of the ocean. Here you can see what it does. If a wave starts to try to break over it so that you would say miss something, it's caught by that hood there and trapped. And it doesn't sample very deep. It only goes down about 20 centimeters below the surface. But it's very good at capturing everything that's there, everything that's floating on the surface of the ocean, or everything that's just below the surface, which is a very important layer of the ocean called the Neuston layer. It's very good at sampling that part of the ocean environment. And when we pull the net up, we take off the collection bag. This is the collection bag. It's clipped to the end of the net with a hose clamp. And we unscrew that hose clamp, pull it off like a sock, turn it inside out, and get the stuff out of the inside that's been trapped by this 1/3 of a millimeter mesh. Now, this is a picture of the places where we've done that trawl, where we put that net in the water and sampled. And the most recent voyage, just completed on October 6th, took us 2/3 of the way to Japan. This is the international date line. This is where you either lose a day or gain a day, depending on which direction you're going. And it's 180th meridian of longitude. It's quite a bit farther west than the Hawaiian Islands. It's even farther west than the remote northwest Hawaiian archipelago that stretches twice as far as the tourist islands do, up to Kure Atoll, including Midway Island. So each one of those locations is where we've trawled, but you can kind of see there's an area where we've trawled several times, right in here. That's the area that we trawled in 1999 after I discovered this phenomenon in 1997. That area was trawled using a sample design worked out by some scientists at the Southern California Coastal Water Research Project for sampling out in the deep ocean. We did random trawl lengths, random distances between trawls, and random times a day. So we got about half night trawls and half day trawls. And we pulled up the net and reported our findings in Marine Pollution Bulletin 4212. The convergent zone that this chart represents is what's been modeled by the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and it contains a contradiction. If you look at this map that you can find on their marine debris website, you see a convergence zone, and then you see what is known as the eastern garbage patch right here. Now this is where trash converges, but it's larger up here outside the convergence zone. It's also larger down here outside the convergence zone. So what is it? Is the convergence zone this narrow band that you see there, or is it a larger? Well, this is the kind of thing we're trying to understand. Everyone wants to know, how big is it? How big is this problem area of the ocean? Well, to tell you the truth, we haven't found any edge or any area where we stop finding this plastic waste. So we don't have an answer. And when people say it's twice the size of Texas, I think they're referring to this area here, but you know, Texas is a pretty crummy unit of measurement. It's a funny shaped state. It's, I mean, you could just as easily say it's the size of Western Europe, I think. Maybe even a little better model than twice the size of Texas. But this is very diffuse. The ocean's always in motion. It's not static. It's not sitting still. And the trash is coming from all over the place. It's coming from around the Pacific Rim, coming from everywhere. This current kind of draws stuff from around this rim and distributes it there. So if it's traveling to get there, then it's polluting the road that it's traveling on to get to this convergence zone. So the highways leading to the convergence zone are also polluted. In some cases, I believe, even more so, even polluted to a greater degree than the convergence zones themselves, based on some of the samples we found. And I'll show you some of those now. This is a typical trawl. About a mile, trawling that net that you saw. And this area that we're examining here happens to be the remotest part of the world ocean. The Pacific Ocean is enormous. If you take all the other oceans and put them together, they would about equal the size of the Pacific. And then take all the land masses and put them together, they would also about equal the size of the Pacific. So you can divide the world into three areas: the Pacific Ocean, all the land, and all the rest of the ocean. So the Pacific Ocean is absolutely enormous. And to think that you can get out in the middle of it, as far from human civilization as possible, and still continue to find this kind of evidence of our waste is alarming. Now, not every trawl comes in with that much plastic. Here's one that you might consider, well, from an edge, but it turns out this isn't really from an edge. This is just from a less polluted patch. But the real story of our last voyage in 2009, which just got back October 6th of last year, is that this whole ocean realm is extremely patchy when it comes to knowing where to go and look for this stuff. Very difficult to predict. You can be trawling along getting tons of this crap, and then all of a sudden just a little tiny bit. You might find one that's a medium one that's just got blue tarp, one of those blue tarps, you know, that everybody uses to cover stuff with, start to unravel. They look in strands like that. And then packing bands that are used to wrap around pallets of goods look like that. So there's identifiable objects in there sometimes. Sometimes, like this one, you can't really tell what it is, but it's sure a lot of it, whatever it is. Here is a funny looking fork. And I think it's probably from a fast food restaurant, but not one that you find near one of your fueling stations here on 395 or 95. It's not the kind of fork you get at a McDonald's. It's the kind of fork you might get at a Japanese restaurant.